Hey everybody! So, in my continuing of reviewing horror films for the entirety of October, today I will be reviewing 4 foreign horror films. Now this is a part 2. Part 1, I reviewed 2 Irish folklore horror films, Unwelcome and The Hallow. If you'd like to check that out, I will put a link in the description so that you can go watch that. So none of these movies are in English, so if watching a movie with subtitles bothers you, then I would recommend that these movies are probably not for you. Also, before we start, guys, I bet you can guess that I am from the United States of America. I do not know any other language. While reviewing these movies, there are some names that I might pronounce not correctly. If that happens, I'm sorry. Alright, but without further ado, let's get into my list of 4 foreign horror films you should check out this Halloween. Alright, first up we have a movie called Pari. Now, Pari is an Indian horror film that came out in 2018 and was directed by Prosit Roy. So the movie follows a man named Arnab. Arnab is driving the car with his parents when his father accidentally hits and kills a woman. After the accident, Arnab accompanies the police to the deceased woman's residence, and there they discover the woman's daughter, who is chained and appears to have been abused. The woman's name is Roxana, and having no place to go, Arnab takes pity on her and lets her stay with him. I mean, it's really the least he can do considering the fact that his father just killed her mother. The two start to grow closer, but Arnab soon will discover that Roxana is more than what she seems. So I actually really enjoyed this film. The film keeps your interest due to its likable characters and well-paced story. I never felt bored, and I really wanted to see how the story was going to play out and what was going to happen to these characters. One of my problems with the film, however, is it's not that scary. It is classified as horror, and there are horror elements for sure, but if I had to classify it, I'd say it's more of a mystery thriller romance. And yeah, you heard that right, romance. This movie focuses a lot on the relationship between Arnab and Roxana, and it's done fairly well. Now, is this a romance for the ages? No, not really, but the two do have decent chemistry. And there's an added element to the fact that Arnab in the movie has pretty much agreed to an arranged marriage between him and a young nurse. And so this complicates things. So if you're looking for a spooky horror film with a romantic flair, go check out Pari. The next film I have on my list is a movie that came out in 2019, and this movie is called Row. Row is an independent Malaysian film directed by Emir Ezwin, and I'm very sorry if I got that name wrong. The story follows a mother and her 2 young children who live alone in the forest. One day, the family take in a young girl they find in the woods. The girl seems just a little bit off and also seems to be mute. That is until one morning when the family awakens to the mysterious girl ominously telling them that they will all be dead soon before she slits her own throat. Yeah, it gets kind of dark pretty fast in this film. After the horrible incident, terrifying things start to happen to the members of this little family. So this apparently was Emir Ezwan's directorial debut, and I think he did a phenomenal job. The acting is also top-notch. The setting and location for this film is probably my favorite because it's unique, it's new, it's something we haven't really seen before. So in the film, this family lives in this little hut. Now, a lot of times when you have a home that is going to be haunted in films, it's usually a giant haunted house. So it was really fun to see how the director created dread and horror using a smaller setting like this hut the family lives in. This is just a well-directed and well-acted film that builds dread and fear competently. You're not going to leave this film feeling any form of happiness, though. Now, while I think this is a good film, the movie is slow, and it's not for everyone. I being one of those people. The film has a very isolated, depressed, slow burn terror that leaves you wanting to watch a Disney flick once it's through. It can be a bit depressing. This movie is in the same flavor as Hereditary and Midsommar. Obviously, it's a smaller budget, but the feeling you have, that kind of gut-wrenching, I'm kind of depressed now feeling you have after watching those movies, at least for me, is the feeling I got after watching this movie. It's also a bit quieter than those other two movies. And just for the record, I really liked Hereditary. I liked those films. This movie was just a little bit too slow for me and a little bit too depressing for me. However, even though this is not really my thing, I think that it was a really well done movie, and I think it's really creepy, and I really like what the director did with it, and I think that it's worth watching. So if you like that kind of that slow burn horror, I would recommend this movie, and I would hope that you would support this movie because I think that it is a well-made movie that deserves recognition. The Mimic is a 2017 South Korean horror film based off the legend of the Jingsen tiger and directed by Hoo Young. So the movie follows a troubled mother of a missing child who finds a lost girl in the woods and slowly starts to realize that something might be off about the young girl. So this isn't a bad movie. It's got some scares. I like the base premise. As stated before, I really love learning about other cultures' lore, especially their horror lore. And this movie is apparently based off of some folklore over there in South Korea. The acting is good, the direction is good. Personally though, I think this movie was a bit boring. The film is cohesive on paper, but in execution, it seems a bit muddled. Such in a way that after certain scenes happen, you're left wondering, did that even matter? Did that really actually contribute to the story? And if anything, some of the scenes feel like boring side quests that you really don't care about. So the story just does not flow very well. So my biggest problem, however, with this movie is the main character. I just really did not like the main character in this film. So you learn in the film that the main character lost her son. Her son got kidnapped or he went missing and they haven't seen him in years and he's most likely gone. And this is putting a strain on her life, a strain on her relationship with her husband, just a strain on everything. However, I had a really hard time feeling bad for her because when you learn why and how her son went missing, you realize that it 100% was her fault. And I'm not talking about something that was like something no one could have predicted. To give you an example, if you ever watched Minority Report, remember Tom Cruise's character, he loses his son. They're at a public pool, his son's sitting there on the edge of the pool, timing Tom Cruise how long he can stay under the water, and Tom Cruise goes under the water, gets distracted for a second, comes back up, and his son is gone. That I feel sorry for that because I could see a person, anyone could do that. We could look away for a second, someone could snatch your kid. Like, watch your kids, you guys. And they could just be gone. However, in this movie, I had a hard time feeling bad for her because the reason her son went missing was because of her own dumb decisions. And I'm just going to tell you why. Her son goes missing because they're at a mall, they're at this public place, and she leaves her young son to be watched by her mother, his grandmother. Okay, yeah, that's fine, except her mother is suffering from Alzheimer's. So not only did she leave her son alone, she left her mother with Alzheimer's alone to watch her son. And it's like, you shouldn't leave either of the two of them alone, especially having one of them watch the other one. Like, who's even supposed to be watching who? That is a dumb decision. And she just keeps making dumb decisions to the point where you're thinking, this woman is a really bad caregiver. She should not have children, or she should not take care of anything. To just give you one more example. So in the movie, they're wandering around the woods, and she stumbles upon a young girl who's probably like 4, 5, or 6. This girl is dirty, and she looks to probably have been maybe abused. Who knows? She seems extremely scared. And any normal person would be like, oh my gosh, pick up the little girl, grab the little girl's hand, and take her somewhere safe. But no, this woman can't be bothered at the moment. So she tells this little 4 or 5-year-old girl, oh, hold on a second, stay here, I'll be back, and like takes off. And I'm not saying she like takes off like a few feet. Like she just like walks off to go deal with what she's dealing with, and the kid's just in the woods. And I'm like, yeah, because that 5-year-old's just gonna sit there. Like, who would do that? Like, nobody in their right mind would just leave a child they found in the woods. She's gonna wander off and get killed. And then of course she does. The kid like wanders off, and it's like, lady, your kid went missing for a reason, and this is the reason. You suck. Alright, however, this isn't a horrible movie. I feel like if they would have just tweaked the character of the main character, things would be better. She just comes off as kind of whiny and obnoxious, and you're kind of like, stop making the same mistakes. But if this movie sounds like kind of interesting to you, give it a watch. It's got some interesting elements to it, but it's not my favorite. But it's still not like a badly done movie. There are a few scenes that are very, very creepy. If anything about this movie sounds a little bit interesting to you, then go ahead and check it out. So Moloch is a 2022 Dutch folk horror film and was directed by Nico van den Brink. The movie follows a single mother named Beatrix, who is living with her aging parents. While recalling the many horrific events that have occurred to her and her family, Beatrix starts to believe that her and her family might be cursed, and she soon starts to suspect something wicked is pursuing her. Now, Moloch is a decent little horror film, well directed and well acted. The movie does a good job capturing your interest by setting up some clues and allows you to play detective along with the main protagonist, played by Sally Harmston. I think this is a cleverly written film. Not the scariest film, but it is interesting, and in the end, you do get rewarded for paying attention. However, it's probably not like the best film. It can get a little dull sometimes. I'd probably never watch it again, but I think it's definitely worth a watch. So if you're looking for a horror film to watch this spooky season, go ahead and check out the movie Moloch. Alright guys, so that was 4 foreign horror films that you should check out. Also, if you're wondering where to watch these films, I will put where you can watch them down in the link below, next to the timestamp of each of these movies. If you guys are still hankering for some horror film reviews, go ahead and check out my playlist of horror films. I also do a list of 11 horror films you probably haven't seen, and that list consists of 11 of some of my favorite lesser-known horror films. But other than that, you guys, just keep looking forward to more horror film reviews from me. Thank you so much for watching. Just keep watching movies, you guys, and keep being scared this holiday season. Happy Halloween! I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.